grandfather says to me, Paul, I want to leave $100,000 to my grandson in a trust, but if after I die, he goes down the wrong path, goes to jail, gets on drugs, doesn't go to college, I don't want him to get that money. I want that money to go to other people. So I get that request every now and then. And so whenever I hear something like that, we have to have a discussion about what you're permitted to do regarding the shifting of a trust beneficiary's interest in principal. I'm Paul Rabelais. I'm an estate planning attorney, so I get that request, every now and then. I want to leave $100,000, and it could be $50,000, it could be $25,000, it could be a percentage of my estate to my grandchild or to my grandchildren or to anybody for that matter. But we see a lot of grandparents doing this for grandchildren, and they want to provide for their grandchildren's education or medical needs, perhaps. But sometimes they tell me that if that grandchild does something bad, and you can plug in whatever bad activity you'd want to plug in, whether it's get on drugs, go to jail, be unproductive, however you want to define it. Sometimes people who are setting up their estates, they want to divert that money back to other people. And the short version is you can't. So let me talk about what you can't do and what you can do. So in our Louisiana Trust Code, we have a provision that says that, I got it right here. Might as well get it just right. The interest of a principal beneficiary, and that grandchild would be a principal beneficiary. The interest of a principal beneficiary is acquired immediately upon the creation of a trust. So if you in your will or in your revocable living trust say that when you die, you leave $100,000 to your grandson in trust, when you die, that interest of the grandson of principal is acquired immediately. Okay, so what does that mean? So what it means is when you leave $100,000 in trust for your grandson, that's $100,000 in trust for your grandson. And you can't say if he does a bad thing, that money goes back to the other grandchildren, goes into the pot for the children, goes to a charity, whatever the case may be. So now what you can do is postpone when he gets it. But it's in a trust for that grandson, and you can't shift his interest in his trust while your grandson is alive. So maybe you say, because you don't want the grandson getting money if he does bad things, you may say, I give the trustee, who's the trustee? Maybe the grandchild's parent. I give the trustee the discretion to determine when he gets the principal, to the extent it's not used for education or healthcare or any of the other purposes of the trust. So now, if that grandson goes to jail, gets on drugs, whatever, the trustee will merely exercise his or her discretion and will, withhold that payment of principal to the grandson until he's mature, or maybe he'll never mature, and it'll just sit there in the trust. So you can postpone when they get it by giving a trustee discretion, but you can't divert it to somebody else. Now, you can divert it upon the grandchild's death. So let's talk about that for a moment. So when you're setting this up, you can provide that when the grandchild dies, that the principal of the trust for the grandchild vests in one or more of the grandchild's descendants if the grandchild has descendants. If the grandchild has no descendants when the grandchild dies while this trust is in existence for the grandchild, then you do get to direct who it goes to. But that doesn't take place until the grandchild passes away. So there was one other provision that I wanted to make sure I covered here. So grandson is a beneficiary. Grandson does bad things. There's $80,000 still in a trust for the grandson. You didn't make a provision that says that when the grandson dies, it goes to one or more of his descendants. and let's say he does have descendants, then when he dies, his interest in the trust merely vests in his heirs. So depending upon whether that grandchild has a will, but the grandchild could direct where his interest in the trust goes. A lot of complicated stuff, but you need to know if you're gonna, leave things in trust for others, you need to know what control you can or can't have over that trust principle, either during that beneficiary's lifetime or when the beneficiary dies. Again, what you can't do is say, I leave X amount to a grandchild in trust, and if the grandchild does a bad thing, the trust goes away and all that money goes to other people. Can't do that. You can postpone when the beneficiary gets the money, and under certain circumstances, you can direct where the money goes when the beneficiary dies if the trust is still in existence at that time. Hope that helps, but just one of those little things that comes up every now and then that that you need to know about, because some people really want to exercise a whole lot of control. I get that they want to exercise control because they don't want to dump money into the lap of someone who would use it for the wrong reasons, but we still got to comply with the appropriate rules that we need to comply with. I'm Paul Rabelais. Hope that helps.